Hey everybody, I have to weigh in on Governor Ron DeSantis' idea of dissolving the Reedy Creek Improvement District that governs the 43,500-acre property that is Walt Disney World. His idea is just purely stupid, and here's why. First of all, he refers to the Reedy Creek Improvement District as if it is just another special district in Florida. Calling the Reedy Creek Improvement District just a common special district is like, well, it's like calling Walt Disney World just a theme park. It's not. The Reedy Creek Improvement District really is a separate county, so large it spans two counties, Orange and Osceola, and many of you will correct me on the pronunciation of the last one, in Florida, in Central Florida. It was developed in 1967 because Walt Disney and Disney World planners, which were found after a number of years of looking for a property to build a theme park and land around it so large that Disney organization could control that property without fear of it being overran by outside market forces. It had a particular problem that came with it. The problem was that it had an unstable water table. In other words, during approximately 1/4 of the year, much of the property was waterlogged. To develop something on it would invite, without the proper controls, water quite literally covering up that theme park ride or hotel grounds, you name it. So in order to gain the ability to develop the many miles of networks of creeks and rivers and lakes that mark the property, the Disney organization had to have, well, the legislative right to not only do it, but to raise necessary money to get it done. Walt Disney World built more than a city within a city. They built a state within a state. And when I say that, it's important to understand what that means to the letter. It means the Disney organization has the ability to raise its own money, float its own bonds, have its own bond covenants, its own rates. And it has done this for many decades now. And it has a set of relationships with organizations like Fitch Ratings, to name others, and many investment banks, which understand the revenue generating system that is Walt Disney World, which consists of its rides, theme parks, attractions, Celebration Florida, the list goes on. And if you take a read of a standard bond issue from the Reedy Creek Improvement District, all of those assets are laid out as part of the total revenue generating system that is the Reedy Creek Improvement District. What's the so what here? The so what here is if you take the improvement district away, you have to then ask yourself the question, who is going to collect and manage and be responsible for those bond issues? Oh, and by the way, how are you going to do that when the Florida legislature in 1967 gave Disney the power to do it under the Florida Constitution? You can't just do it. To make the decision is one thing, but to believe it's legal because you're a legislative body and have done it is something else. Disney could take Florida to court, sue the state for billions, and win. Florida, after having a $2.65 billion deficit in fiscal year 2021, has a $4 billion one now. I'll tell you, they take on Disney in court, that $4 billion surplus, that $4 billion budget surplus they're enjoying is going to dry up real quick. The reasons why Ron DeSantis wants to take this action are just stupid. Okay, it's like this, folks. Considering the bond issues alone, the debt obligations don't just vanish. They have to be paid off over a period of years. By the time those bonds mature, by the time that the whatever organization is responsible for paying for replacing the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which wouldn't happen, guess what would happen? The court would say, no, 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 no. You gotta maintain the Reedy Creek Improvement District until those bond covenants are done. That will take a period of years, outlasting Ron DeSantis' tenure as governor. So why bother? The Reedy Creek Improvement District wouldn't just dissolve anyway. It would still be there. And at some point, someone would say, well, gee, why are we doing this? Well, because the government was upset that they, decided they didn't want to pay political contributions. Seriously? First of all, the Disney organization does have a free speech right. There's nothing in any law, there's no covenant that says that because Disney has the power of a city-state, it has to kowtow to politicians and feed their coffers, which is really what this is all about. Disney can choose to suspend political donations. There is nothing written that says they can't. To ask them to do so is to, well, basically tell them to shut up or not do so. The state of Florida does not have that kind of power. No one does. Not in that context, in the government context. So, look, DeSantis may be upset, but look, he's better off, I think, understanding how municipal organizations really work. He's in charge of one. And what it takes to unwind one, let alone assemble one. I really have to emphasize this point, folks. I really do. In other words, how much does it cost to, from scratch, form a county government? Because that's what you're looking at in terms of what you would have to do. Replace the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Oh, and here's something else, folks. The bond issues that are attached to it don't just dissolve. Someone has to pay the bondholders, the underwriters. Who's that going to be? Well, if it's going to come from the Reedy Creek Improvement District, you've dissolved it, who does it fall to? Well, it falls to the state. It would have to. Who else? I really have to emphasize this point, folks. I really do. But again, that's why it's not legal. Because when the Reedy Creek Improvement District was created on page 67, it outlines that it was done so under the state and federal constitution. And it has clear language regarding its right to float bonds, collect revenues to pay off those bonds, and have those bonds sold on the open market to investors like you and me. How would you like it if you knew all of a sudden the state of Florida was going to yank away one of your investments in the Reedy Creek Improvement or in a Reedy Creek Improvement bond issue? You wouldn't be happy at all, would you? You would say, sue them. I want my money. Sue them. That's what would have happened. So Ron DeSantis clearly does not understand what he's talking about or doing. He comes in at a time when concerns about mask wearing and conservative and liberal politics have dominated our landscape, reflecting a unprecedented large degree of anti-intellectualism. In other words, people not wanting to think about what they're talking about doing. They just want it done. They don't want to know about the consequences of it or that it's even possible. It's not that the action isn't possible. The legislature can vote on whether or not to salute a ham sandwich. But it doesn't mean that the ham sandwich is actually there to receive the accolades. And it doesn't mean that it's legal to actually dissolve the Reedy Creek Improvement District considering its obligations. It's not. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. Disney could take this all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and they would win.